right, hello. Welcome to conlang with me, number 12. This is session number 12. So, today I am going to start with actually a couple updates about scheduling, and then we're going to get into the stuff I have planned to do today. So just give me one moment while I finish setting everything up. Alright, thank you for your patience. So, first I'm going to start with the scheduling update. So this is going to be the final week of having both conlang with me and yesterlore in the same week. That's sort of the big announcement. I'm no longer doing the Saturday morning stream. I've been kind of alluding to the possibility that that might end. It turns out that that is going to end. We're not doing that anymore, unfortunately, just because of scheduling, busyness and stuff. And the bigger thing is that the stream is going to be moved to being just on Fridays when yesterlore typically is. So we know yesterlore is typically 5:30 to 8 p.m. Pacific on Fridays, and it is going to continue to be so, but every other week. So this week we are having both conlang with me tonight and yesterlore tomorrow at the normal time. Next week we are going to have the next conlang with me, and then the following week we will have yesterlore again, and it will alternate like that for the foreseeable future. So that's going to be updated on the schedule, if that is possible. I'm not sure if Twitch can let me do alternating week schedules, but that is the plan moving forward for now. It will just give me more time to plan between sessions, because as we progress in conlang with me, it's going to take more time to prepare each week as we get into more like detailed, not exactly linguistic, but other topics as they apply to the conlang. So that gives me more time to plan that and have a better quality stream, and also gives me more time to plan for yesterlore, which does take a lot of time to choose and prepare the stuff that we're going to read and work with in yesterlore. So that is the schedule moving forward. This is the final week of the traditional Thursday, Friday schedule as it has been thus far, although at the new time of 5:30 to 8 for both Thursday and Friday. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at something different than what we've looked at thus far with yesterlore. We've been looking at Old English stuff. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a deviation. We're going to be looking at something else. So that is my update in terms of scheduling. So now that we've done that, let's get into this topic here. So The last stream, which was relatively short, we talked about my time system. So the way that my time system works is I'm going to have a time phrase at the beginning of a text that I'm writing. So if I'm writing a write-up on a particular culture or a topic, I'm going to start my paragraph. Typically it will be paragraphs, or section of notes, or whatever it happens to be. Whatever my beginning of my writing is, it's going to start with a time phrase, and that's just going to orient what I'm talking about in terms of the time. Am I talking about the 14th century? Am I talking about the Middle Kingdom of Egypt? Am I talking about the Han Dynasty? So I can orient with time, a time phrase, and then I have a time phrase marker that delineates where that ends. And then moving forward, what I do is before each main verb, before each predicate, there will be a little particle that says the relationship of that sentence, of that verb, to the time. So is it happening during the time? Is it happening before, after the time frame? Is it happening, near the beginning, near the end? And so I talked about different possibilities for that. And what I did between last time and this time is I chose morphemes to be those particles. And some of these are a little bit thicker, 2 syllables or 1 heavy syllable here, solve. And I'm okay with that. But the one that's going to be the most common is this one that's during. Whoops. The one that's during the time period, this is going to be the most common. So I made it the shortest and least space taking because it's going to be the most common one that shows up. If it's just happening during the time frame, then it will be E. Now, if I want to be more vague, if I don't want to specify a very particular time frame and just want to say in general, but still be able to differentiate the past versus the present versus the future, what I can do is I have this particle here. And what this is it's actually a compound of my pronoun ho, which is my third person environmental pronoun. So in some environment, and then my time phrase ending particle day that I chose last time. And so if I want to be more general, I just start my phrase with hode, probably without the sort of marker there. It'll just be one word, hode. And then my sentence starts, and if it's in the present, I'll use e. If it's generally in the past, I'll use el. And if it's generally in the future, I'll use lahar. So these are almost acting like auxiliary verbs, but they're not verbs, they're not being conjugated or anything like that. They're just there to orient me in space and time. Or I guess in time, not really space. So that's what hode is doing here. And these are my particles, they're in my lexicon sheet now. So that is the sort of update on my time system. That is how that is going to work moving forward. The second thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit of a change in how I am loaning words in from certain languages. So I just updated that a little bit, and I wanted to touch on that as I was doing that. So one thing I realized is I have this phoneme. I determined that would be its own phoneme. Some words can begin with in Tagalog, but we're going to talk about why that doesn't matter as much anymore. And why that might actually not be a phoneme anymore. But as long as it is a phoneme, I'll actually probably mark it out. But if it's not a phoneme, then I am not going to have it. The bigger changes, though, are when things are allophonic, like, for example, in Hebrew. Hebrew has these fricative allophones of these stops, like p becomes f, k becomes ch, and b becomes v. In Tiberian Hebrew, t also becomes th, and d becomes th, but most vocalizations nowadays, and even in the medieval era, did not differentiate those ones, t and d. Some did, some still do, but in general, they're less salient, and I also don't have anything these could become. If I were to have these th and the, I don't have a the phoneme. But I do have F and I have V, and this I could have as H. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually, even though these are not the phoneme, they will be heard as that because they're vocalized as such. And so I'm going to loan them in as those sounds. The other thing I changed is also about Hebrew, and it's this O phoneme here. Oh, whoops, sorry, my computer's making some noises. While this is a phoneme in a lot of Hebrew vocalizations, and even in a lot of the Palestinian vocalization that I'm using, one that's closer to Tiberian, I think I want to move away from Tiberian Hebrew vocalization. And part of that is because I feel like if I have a lot of sources of O coming from Hebrew, because of the verb forms that I'm tending to take from the present participle, which tends towards this phoneme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a variety that is going to have this, what would be this phoneme, end up actually being read as ah, like a back ah, maybe ah, because it just gives me more variety in how it sounds, how the words will sound, even though I know I'm loaning this as O when it's in other languages. I'm not doing that in Hebrew anymore. So that's what's happening there. Oh wait. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. That just gives me more variety in how the vowels sound. So that's the phonological change. Now, an even bigger change that I made is, so between the last session and this section, I have coined a lot of words. I have tried doing more examples and translations. And what I have found is that as much as I want it to be part of this language, I am actually not going to have Tagalog as one of my source languages, as much as I wanted it. There were reasons why I wanted Tagalog, but it just became really difficult to loan from it, especially with how many of my roots are coming from verbs or need to be verbs, and how Tagalog verbs work. It's just not super compatible with the way that my grammar works, with the way that verbs work, and the way that nouns are derived from verbs. It's just not, it wasn't working out, and that is why I've decided to forego having Tagalog as a source for this language. The other thing is having 4 source languages rather than 5 just makes it that tad bit easier to, it like narrows what I can choose from, which, sounds at first glance like a negative, but it gives me, it kind of makes me choose quicker, because when I had 5 source languages, it really made it difficult to choose between all of the options that were coming up for certain words, and also it was taking a long time to look at all the options. I had to search 5 languages, and Tagalog, of all the languages that I'm learning from, is the one I am least familiar with, so it often took the longest to research what a word could be from Tagalog. So now that I don't have Tagalog, there's only one of my 4 source languages where is a phoneme, and before my threshold was 2. I could change my threshold because I only have 4 languages now, but even 1 out of 4 feels like it's not enough for me to justify having it. So I think I am going to go back to not having it be a phoneme and not marking it out, which means I will have to change something somewhere. So that is the update on phonology. Oh, and I guess just generally, I did cover my source change too. I'm no longer learning from Tagalog in any way. So, the final sort of review thing I wanted to go over before we get into what we're going to newly do today is I want to talk about a change I made, or like sort of an addition I made to my conjugation system. So the conjugation system works as it already did, the way I set it up before, which is this system here with my verbs. I talked about last time how I am okay with the clusters that this might produce, this having these be consonants here, D, mi, si, a, and I'm still doing the vowel harmony thing with D versus do, si versus su, mi versus mu, just front, back, ai, front versus back harmony there, with the final vowel of the root. I'm not having vowel harmony in general, but this was just a fun thing I wanted to preserve from mostly the Turkish that I was borrowing these from. So, and it just gives my verbs a little bit more of a variety in how they look. So I talked about that last time, but one thing that I added is something with pronouns that I was trying to see if there were a way that I could make my sentences a little bit more compact. Now, if we look at some of the example sentences I've done here, there's some stuff I actually need to change. But when I have pronouns like avi here, or avin here, or umin here, or sorry, umin, it's nice. What I need to do with all these right now is I need to add my time marker. And because I don't have a specific time frame here, it's probably just going to be the generic one during a time, during an unspecified time. So there's going to be an E, basically, in all of these sentences here. You can see I've added some more vocabulary, some more stuff. This pass by I haven't actually come up with a word for yet. So that's still in brackets there. I was trying to do an example sentence here. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to see if I could have my pronouns, at least, it didn't really work out with my third person pronouns, but with second person and first person pronouns it worked out to where I could have endings, basically turn my pronouns into suffixes that could then go on the verb when they are the topic. So you'll notice in this sentence and in this sentence and in this sentence and in this sentence and in this sentence, which I already have examples for, I have a first or second person pronoun as the topic. So here, I is the topic here, you is the topic here, and you is the topic here. This is the informal, sorry, this is the formal you, and this is the informal, the familiar, sorry, not informal, but familiar you that I have. And here it's the, in the dative here, it's just the patient here. So what I'm allowing myself to do now is I came up with some, let me put E to these as well. I made the pronouns into suffixes, and we can kind of see that a little bit better if we look at the noun sheet again and look at where my pronouns are. So for first and second pronouns, you'll see that there are notes coming off of all of these now. And what these are is, when you hover it, it shows the suffix that this becomes when it is the topic. Now, as a suffix, it can still take all of the case endings that it has, because it is the topic suffix. So whatever case the topic has, it will still have that case, but it'll just be attached to the verb. Same here, and then umi, umo, it just attaches itself, and then sen, san. Another thing I changed here is when these are patientive, they don't actually need the I or O respectively, because it wasn't actually ambiguous, because they're differentiated by a vowel as well. And I also just like how they sound if you end it with sen or san, if you have it as a suffix, or just by itself. The I only comes in, or the O comes in, when you add a different case ending. So that's what's going on there. So if we go back to my example sentences, how these bear out with the verb endings. So if we go back to our verbs, you'll see that they're hover text for all of these too. So what happens to the direct, since the direct is kind of our unmarked verb form, the U just says that it's a verb, or adjective if it's attributive, the U actually gets replaced with one of these endings if it's a first or second person pronoun. So this is first person, and then this is, I don't need to write it because I know, but it's first person, second person formal, second person informal. Now with di, do, same thing. It's di or do followed by the endings. Now the way that I'm writing the e or u without having to write it both is I'm actually using this dotless I, which is borrowed from Turkish's way of doing the back unrounded vowel, the high back unrounded vowel, which is this phoneme in Turkish. I don't have it, so I'm just using it graphically to tell myself that it could be I or it could be you. And I'm doing that, I'm doing that here as well. So with these, you see it's sivi, sivo, sumi, sumo, and then here, mivi, miwo, mumi, mumo. Notice when you have you, like when you have the second person formal, the U kind of overrides the vowel harmony. So even if it's a verb that would be D, when you add umi to it, the U kind of pushes the I out. Special with the formal U. And then here, they just add on. And here I'm using this ash letter A-E ligature again to indicate it could be A, it could be A. Depends on the harmony here. And the U doesn't disrupt the harmony because there's a consonant here separating it anyway. So that's the conjugation change I made. And so you can see some of these sentences I've already done examples where I've showed how that looks. So we have umim idrishti oro. You saw the mountains. Or just you saw mountains, not the mountains, sorry. Just you saw mountains. It could also be the mountains. I don't really have definiteness marked in this language. I don't know if I'm going to. I might, but for now I don't have it marked. But see, mountains here is the patient. The U is actually that experiential thing that we're doing where we have experiencers marked with dative in this language. So U formal is marked with dative with the M. But it is the topic, so I could attach it to this verb drish. Drish is what I'm using for see, to see, drish. And then this is marking that it happened, it's perfective. So it happens or happened as a singular event. Not like you can see the mountains or you are seeing them ongoingly. So that's that perfective marker that we're using. And because this isn't a front vowel, E, it's D and not do. But when I attach umim to it, here I'm putting a hyphen to show where it separates, the U is overriding that I. So it would be E, but the U kind of pushes it out because the pronoun is umi. Now avi doesn't do that because it's not really a problem as much for it to be the a to not be there because it's the v versus vo differentiates it. But the problem with having it just be me, so if it were like umi here, the problem with that a little bit, it could be circumvented, but the problem is that me by itself is already an ending for the perfective indirect evidentiality. And I don't want that to be ambiguous. So here, if I just had it be me, now what's to tell me that that is, an imperfective in the second person and not a perfective just a plain perfective indirect. They're identical, and I want to avoid that. So that U does need to be there. Let's go back to my examples. Here we have sen igeru avim. I'm used the familiar second person here, just for variety and see how it looks. So sen igeru avim. So geru here is perceive, just that plain, direct imperfected ending. And then by me is in the dative here. I perceive, so you are perceived by me, basically. You're perceived to me, because the experiencer of perception is in the dative here, the M suffix. So it's just sen because it's patientive. It doesn't need to be seni, e. Don't need that. And then when we want to attach it, we just put the sen. The sen replaces the U. So it goes from sen igeru avim to iger sen avim. And what I want to do is I just want to have these be both allowed. I could say umi idrishti oro, or I could say idrishtu mimoro. And there isn't really a meaning difference because it's still the topic when it's attached to it. But it does save a little bit of space. So I can kind of choose what sounds good in a particular sentence. I wanted that kind of stylistic variety. Because thus far there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for that. My sentence order is, at least for the main constituents, it's pretty rigid based on what's the topic and what isn't. So I wanted a little bit of something that I could kind of aesthetically play with, and also that makes it a tiny bit more compact. Not huge, it's just a space that's being dropped, and sometimes there's a vowel that's being skipped. But for the most part, it's not a huge gain in compactness. It's just aesthetically nice. And I wanted to do some examples here that I haven't changed yet. So this could be avi, I enoshi, enoshu. But it could also be I enoshvi, I enoshvi, I enoshvi. Alright. This one can also have an equivalent here. It could be I pibdivid apo. And then this one could be I karduvin korucheva ah oheldi he. I also wanted to touch on this sentence here because it was requested of someone in the chat last time. Or not last time, but the time before. Someone really wanted me to translate this sentence. I make you a cookie, but I eat it. I couldn't really replicate the non-standard grammar there in the past tense. I just did I made you a cookie, but I ate it. I guess if I wanted to make it sound somewhat broken, I could just have it non-harmonized. I could say kardi and heldu just to be tricky there. I could do that to make it more authentically awkward sounding, I guess, from a standard perspective. I kind of like that. That maybe captures it, but if I want to really quickly parse it, it's I, agent, made, make, and then it's perfective. And then I have a cookie here is koluche, which is a loan from Persian. Because none of my first languages have a good native word to borrow for cookie. And cookies originate in, I think, Persia in the 600s. So it felt authentic to loan it from Persian, koluche. Thanks to my Persian-speaking friend and his mom for checking on this word for me. And then, here is but. I'm loaning that from Arabic, or not Arabic, sorry. I don't think it is anything like this in Arabic, actually. Yeah, no, this is from Hebrew. And then ohel is also from Hebrew. And then this is my third person, and it's crafted is the gender. Koluche is this A serendipitously is the craft noun class, and so this is referring back to it. Crafted thing, third person. So that's the it there that it's referring to. Same thing here, but put avin, have it as vin on the verb. So that's the update with my conjugation scheme that I wanted to cover real briefly. So that is the last sort of review type thing I wanted to go over. So that gets us into what I wanted to do tonight, which is go a bit into seeing how this is going to shake out when I actually want to use this language. Now, the thing is, I don't have enough vocabulary to go ahead and do that, so I'm going to have to coin some on the fly tonight. And of course, I'm going to allow myself to change what words are later, obviously because it's my conlang. But my plan, since I can't sort of just start taking notes on something random and have enough words to get into something yet, what I'm going to do is I have been working on this little practice thing, which is an example. I just wanted to write about something in a culture and see how my language would handle talking about that topic. And this is just a small example. There's some more stuff that I think we need to go into to have this be super useful and doing what my goal for the language wants it to do. But just the purpose of what I want to do with this example is to test out my grammar and how it works and see if there's anything I need to change. So, the example I want to talk about is I found, I was just researching different sort of garments, and I got this sentence from a Wikipedia article, just generic information about it. This is called a deal in English. I think it's pronounced do I have the when composed? It's supposed to be an L connected with the. It's the voiced lateral fricative. I think it's like dej. It actually might be a voiceless, contrasted with an aspirated in Mongolian. But yeah, it's dej. Dej or deal is what we call it, I think, in English, or dale. I'm not sure how it's pronounced in English. I'm just pretty sure that this is how it's pronounced in Mongolian. So it's a Mongolian garment, and let's actually read what it says. So, the deal, or kaftan. Kaftan is it's actually a different garment. I think just some people might call it a kaftan because it's similar. In my translation, I might actually not include this or kaftan because I would want that to be, the distinctness of that to be preserved in my language because I want some detail, cultural detail. I wouldn't make that conflation probably in my conlang. So, the deal, or the dej, is the Mongolian traditional garment worn on work days and special days. It is a long, loose gown cut in one piece with the sleeves. It has a high collar and widely overlaps at the front. The dej is girdled with a sash. Mongolian dej always close on the wearer's right and traditionally have 5 fastenings. Modern dej also often have decoratively cut overflaps. Okay, so that's the information I want to convey in my language. So I want to see how would I convey this information in my language, and do I like it? Do I like how it's coming out? So the first thing I want to establish is, of course, my time frame. Because the beginning of my writing in this language begins with a time phrase. So what is my time frame? In English, we just have is. It's in the present tense. So it is the Mongolian traditional garment. So I'm probably going to be just sort of being generic here. So I'd probably want to start with my generic time phrase. So I'm going to actually make this bigger. And I might do like a phrase per line or something. Something like that. I'm also going to make this smaller because I want to see more of my lines here. I don't need this to take up the whole space here. There we go. So I'm going to start with my generic time thing, which is hode. Because it's this, you know, some environment as a time frame. Generic. And if it's present tense, then I'm just going to have E as my marker. When I actually get to it. E as my marker. So when I think I'm going to do italics when I'm typing in the language, and non-italics when I'm not typing in the language. So, or I might do brackets for words I don't have. Now, for dej, I'd probably want to loan this. It's sort of like the name of this garment into my language. I'd want to loan it. So it would probably just be, I want to kind of preserve the length and have it be like del, and then I don't have z as a phoneme, so it will just have to be an L. And it is a crafted thing. That would be the noun class it's in. It's something that's made. It's clothing. So it's going to end with a there. And that is clearly the topic of the first sentence, is the it is the subject in English, but that's not what's telling me that it's the topic. It's the topic because it's what I'm talking about. I'm introducing it as the topic of discussion. Now, what I'm saying is that it is a Mongolian traditional garment. That's the first sort of clause there. And back when we were talking about syntax, I was working on the assumption that I would be able to turn every noun into a verb if I wanted to. And that is the case. I'm going to do that. However, one thing I've decided since last time that I guess I forgot to put in my review is that I am going to have a copula only when I am equating to nouns. When I'm saying a noun is another noun, and in those cases I would really want to preserve the noun class of the noun I'm equating it to, and also want to easily mark out adjectives on that noun without them having to be more verbs after the verb, which was getting kind of confusing as I was saying before. I would actually prefer to have a copula. And so I made a copula. The copula is olu. It's loaned from, it's olmak is the copula in Turkish. It's ol is the root. Now, the copula in Turkish works a bit differently. There's also like this it's like reconstructible imek. It doesn't ever appear as imek. You use olmak as the infinitive. But there's forms in e that you sort of suffix onto nouns to say that they are that. You also do it with adjectives. This Turkish works a bit differently than my language, of course. But I'm only going to use it with nouns, and I'm going to use ol as my verb. So it's olu. So that is my verb. It's just going to be an equative. So I'm just sort of defining what a del is. So a del is a Mongolian traditional garment. So my main verb is going to be olu. So my time phrase marker goes before it. So that's going to be e, because it's just in this generic time present tense. And before I just go ahead and put olu, I need to think about my evidence. Do I have primary source evidence for this? Have I seen a del? The answer to that is no, I have not. Am I working from a primary source? I have a picture of a del. I have a couple pictures here. However, my source is actually Wikipedia. So even though I trust Wikipedia, I'm not going to doubt it. I'm not going to make it, irrealist. I'm not going to say it might be Mongolian. I am going to trust that Wikipedia has sources that say that this is a Mongolian traditional garment, but I am working off of Wikipedia. I haven't done my own research reading Mongolian primary sources that say this. So because I'm working on someone else's word, it's going to be indirect. And so it's going to be also. And whether or not it's you or I, it depends on the frontness or backness of the vowel. Now it's ol, so it's going to be a back vowel, also. So far I've got hodedele also. So far I have, like, in this time frame, just generic time frame, working in the present because it's during it. The dale is a Mongolian traditional garment. So the actual head of that phrase, the noun there, is garment. And I actually already coined a word for garment. It's vasmane. Vasmane. It comes from Sanskrit. Vasman. Vasman. And it has that A because it's crafted. It's made by people. And now I need two adjectives. I need to say that it is Mongolian, and I need to say that it is traditional. So, for Mongolian, I am going to loan the Mongolian word for Mongolian, which is Mongol, and it's spelled with an O in Cyrillic, but I think it's pronounced like a back vowel, like a U, a high back vowel, so it's going to be Mongol, I think, in my language. Mongol is going to be the root, so Mongolu would be to be Mongolian. So it is a garment which is Mongolian. It is Mongolian, and it is traditional. And I already have a root for traditional. It's Mossad. Mossad to be traditional. Comes from Hebrew. It means to pass down is the root in Hebrew, but it also means I'm using it to also mean to be traditional, to be passed down. So, and then Mossada is tradition in my language as a concept noun. The concept of being passed down, tradition. Okay. Now, I want to check if this makes sense. So, these are both being marked as direct. Now, I have a question for myself that I'm not sure how I want to answer. Because my adjectives are verbs, when an adjective is being marked as a verb, by being a stative verb, do I still need to think about the evidence? Like, how do I know it's Mongolian? How do I know that it's traditional? Well, everything is going to be a second source. So pretty much, technically, every single verb and adjective in this entire phrase is going to be marked indirectly. It's going to be marked with indirect evidentiality. Every single adjective, every single verb is going to be indirect because I'm getting it from another source. I trust that it's traditional. I trust that it's Mongolian. I trust that it's loose. It's a loose gown. I trust that it's loose. I trust that it's long. So I could just be okay with the fact that I have to mark all of these. It would be Mongolsu Mosersi. Mongolsu Mosersi. But do I like that I have to do that everywhere? Or do I want a special rule with attributives that say that they're just going to be the same evidence that my verb is? No, because I could know that it's Mongolian from first-hand experience or a primary source, but maybe not know that it's traditional. I know that it is a garment. Do I have direct evidence that it is a garment? Well, I have a picture of a garment. But is a picture a primary source? Well, I would say the picture is the primary source. But I have to trust that it's the primary source is the thing. I have to trust that this is a picture of a dish and not, I don't know. This could be something else for all I know. Someone's just saying that it's a dish. So I need to kind of make a call here. I do want to mark out most of this information as saying that it is indirect evidence, that it's second hand. I'm getting it from a secondary source. So I would at least want the main verb to mark that. But maybe I just have any attributives. Maybe I leave my attributive adjectives unmarked. Unless it's like super important and needs to be clear that they're not primary evidence. I just kind of leave them blank because I've already marked it here. I've marked that it's second-hand source, that they are this thing, so I don't need to also mark them. I could do that, but that gets a little confusing because this does imply something. This implies I have primary evidence for it. I don't have a deal in my house. I also don't have a Mongolian person confirming for me that it is a Mongolian deal. So I don't want to say that that's what I have because this would be inaccurate. So maybe I do just have to mark them all. Do I like that? I don't know how much I like that. I don't know if I dislike it either. I like being precise in this way. That's one of my goals, to be precise about this kind of information. So maybe it is good that I'm marking all of it. I think that does align with my goals, even if it is not, like, something about the aesthetic of having everything marked with the secondary evidence I don't love. But it's just an aesthetic thing, and aesthetic is lower on my priorities in terms of my goals. I kind of like it. I like that it aesthetically recalls. It's just hammering in the non-primariness of the evidence for all of it. There might end up being an adjective here that I do have evidence for, so we'll see. Maybe if I'm going to count the picture as primary source evidence, which I kind of do want to, because it is a picture, the actual stuff that's being said here, I'm going to count as secondary, but the picture itself, I'm going to count it as primary evidence. So if there's something that's demonstrated in the picture, I think I'm going to count it as primary. Like, I can see it with my own eyes that it's maybe a long, loose gown. However, I don't have proof in the image that it's a Mongolian traditional garment. Someone could have just made this today, you know. I don't have proof of that. Whereas I can clearly see that it's long. So long might be primary. We'll get there when we get there. So far we have the deal is a Mongolian traditional garment. Now here's the take. It is the Mongolian traditional garment worn on work days and special days. So I need to say that it is worn on work days and special days. So I kind of want to say that it is a Mongolian traditional garment. So it's a traditional garment which is worn. So all of this, in the grammar of the sentence I'm taking from, describes the garment. But I could just say that this still describes deal and have it just be another sentence. In which case, I'm just going to say and here, which I've coined a word for. It's oo. It's just the vowel oo. Oo is and. it's coming from Hebrew. Technically, it's in modern Hebrew, it's ve, which is also, by happenstance of loan from Arabic, it's also the Turkish word for and, ve. In biblical Hebrew, it's like more like wa, which rightly should be probably loaned as va, but I already have va in a lot of places. And there are some contexts in Hebrew where it's going to be like a long u. Usually it's attached to the beginning of the next word. Oops, I just pressed a button. I didn't mean to. So I'm just loading it as ooh, just to keep it short. It's and ooh. And it is worn. So the it would be he. So it's still the same topic. So I don't have to have that there. I can just say and is worn. And I already have a verb vasu for wear. And so do I know that it's worn on work days and special days? From this. So it's secondary source. It's going to be vasu. Double S there. Vasu. Vasu. Secondary source on work days and special days. So, with the vocab I already have, I've already coined a word that means like the time when you work, like labor, working hours kind of thing. And that word is, I think it's from Hebrew. It's avodah. Yeah, it's Hebrew. Avodah. So if I wanted to say during work time, if I wanted to be vague like that, not say work days specifically, I could just say avodah. That R coming in for the locative, so it's during that time. Worn during this time. Avodah. Location. Worn at work time. And I also have a word that means like time off work, like holiday, vacation, non-work time. And this is from Greek. I think in Greek it's eorte, but it's just eorta, with this concept noun ending here, eorta. So it'd be eortar again during this time and during this time. If I wanted to be vague, if I wanted to say just like it is worn. That's the end of the first sentence. Let's stop there for this line. If I wanted to actually translate this literally, it's like current time frame, generic, present, and the E marks that it's present. Present. So a deal is, and I'm marking that it's the, I'll just put an asterisk, say that it's secondary source, is a garment. It is Mongolian. And it is, an asterisk on that, it is traditional. Or literally, if I want to be literally, it's like passed down. Passed down means to be traditional in my language, so it's fine to say traditional here. Traditional, to be tradition, yeah. And it is worn. During, so I'm just put an at symbol, during work time and time off. Now, is this specific enough? It is actually taking up less space. As I kind of predicted, it takes up a little bit less space than the original sentence does because of the compactness a bit. So yeah, okay. I like how it sounds. I still haven't decided on the prosody, like where things are going to be stressed or pitched or whatever. I haven't decided that. I'm going to wait on that still. But I really do like how this is coming out. The only critique I have is I don't like how vague. I'm just working with vocab I already have so far. Work time and time off. which is, it seems to be true, work days and special days. Well, the way that they're contrasting that in this information tells me that, you know, it's time at work and time not at work. And days is just sort of maybe a artifact of the way English phrases it, work day versus not work day. Well, it's just work time and non-work time. I think that I'm fine with work time for work days, but special days, maybe I need something a little bit different than just time off or vacation. Now, the root of this comes from a word for festival, so that kind of implies specialness, but in my language, I'm just using it for, like, vacation, holiday. I guess holiday is a special time, but I mean it holiday in the British sense of just time off of work. See, the way that it's being contrasted in the original here in the Wikipedia text is what makes me kind of feel okay doing this, but at the same time, I think special implies something important. I think I would want to know what special days in order to choose what word I want there. Maybe it's like, if it's like a religious day, like religious events, or maybe it's just like national holidays, historical holidays. I'm going to underline it to say I want to come back to it as, you know, something I might change if I were taking notes. This is just here for an example. It's not like imperative that I have a correct translation of this. It's just, if I were to do this justice, I might change what I do. I might move this up, actually, just so I have more space here. Okay. The next sentence, it is long. It is a long, loose gown. Cut in one piece with the sleeves. Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, I kind of just want to keep this in a note here, so I know the vague glossing. Okay. I'm not glossing it, like, officially with, like, locative and stuff. I'm just giving rough literal translation. So. Next one. So, it is long. It is the, referring back to the deal. So I could say the deal is a long, loose gown, cut in one piece with the sleeves. But I want to be more compact than this. So I kind of want to say that the long, loose gown, knowing that I'm referring back to deal, because that's still my topic of the overall piece of writing. So I could say the long, loose gown. So that would be, I already have a root for gown. It's estete. Estete. That's my word for gown. And it ends with a, because crafted thing. So that's my topic. And I need a word for long. I do not yet have a word for long. Oh no, I do not want this to be italicized. Okay. I want this word to be italicized, but I don't want long. And then that's going to be, I think long and loose. I can see that it's long and loose with my own eyes, so that's going to be direct. Long, loose. The gown is long and loose. No, the gown, which is long and loose, is cut. So yeah, it's cut. Cut is my main verb. So cut, and that's my main verb. So my time frame reference is going to come before that. It's the same time frame, just generic present. So I'm going to put e there. Cut. Do I know how it's cut? Cut in one piece with the sleeves. I can't really see that very clearly in my picture, so I'm going to go ahead and say that that's secondary evidence. Cut, and then in one piece with the sleeves. In one piece. One piece is how it's being cut. That would need to be marked with the Alice case. So whatever one piece is going to be, well, the piece the piece is going to be crafted. It's going to be a crafted noun. And so it's going to end with A. And it is, in the Vialis case, it's going to have an H there. A, or just long A. And then with the sleeve, I think it's cut along with the sleeve. The sleeve is going to have to be in the commutative. Now, sleeve is also going to be a crafted thing. And it's going to be a commutative, so it's going to end with L. That's where that sort of sentence ends. There's a semicolon here, but I'm going to do that separately then. Yeah. So I need, how many words do I have? I need long, I need loose, I need cut, I need one piece. Okay. And I need sleeve. For one piece, I kind of want a word for piece, and I want to have a number. And I think I said at one point that I want numbers to be able to, like, prefix or, like, attach onto things easily. I'm not ready to do numbers yet. So this is not going to, I'm not going to get to fully translate this today, because there's numbers. I think there's, like, 5 fastenings later, yeah. So I'm not going to translate this. The point of this exercise is to see how the grammar handles this stuff. So whatever my number 1 is going to be, actually, I'll put the numeral 1 here. Usually, I reserve numerals for marking first person, second person, third person. That's how it works in linguistic glossing usually. But I think because I already have my pronouns, I don't need to mark them with numbers, so I'll just use actual numerals, like Arabic numerals for the numbers here. Cool. One piece. Yeah. Now, one thing, so wouldn't one piece need to be singulative? It would not be singulative. One piece of cloth, because I'm not referring to a specific deal. In general, single pieces, in general, are how it is cut. If I were talking about a particular counted piece, I think I would have it be singulative. But because I'm talking about the single pieces that they use in general, I'm going to leave it collective, default collective there. Same with sleeve. It's just, in English, we use the singular here, the singular number. But we're talking about, like, generic all deals. So when I say deal here, this, if I wanted to translate the grammar of what I'm doing literally, this is like deal as a concept, like the garment. Well, it's not a concept, it is a crafted thing. But it's sort of all instances of deals, or just deals collectively. Because that's what I'm talking about. English just has this thing, especially in, like, sort of academic English, where you can use a singular when you're talking about, you know, the way that they say, like, the deal as in the article of clothing that exists in general. They're not talking about a particular deal, which is why most of this stuff is still going to be collective, even though it's grammatically singular in English. It's going to be collective in my language, especially because collective is my default, and there's no reason to deviate from the default here yet. So, I probably won't come up with my word for one tonight because I'm not ready to do numbers, but I could probably come up with words for all these other things. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to coin a word for long, I'm going to coin a word for loose, and I'm going to coin a word for piece, and I'm going to coin a word for sleeve. So in order to do that, I'm probably going to want to think about what are the words for long and loose and cut and piece and sleeve that I want to consider. So for that, I'm going to need to go to, here's my lexicon. Whoa, I scrolled down too far. Now it's lagging. Whoa, yeah, no, it's very much lagging. Okay, cool. I don't want to go to kitchen actually for this. So I want long. I want loose. I want cut. I want piece. I want sleeve. Okay. Actually, maybe I don't need all this space in between. If I need more space, I'll add it. I don't need to preemptively give it to myself. Alright. So, long. Let's think about long. So, I'm thinking... What comes to mind first? I'm thinking... So, it's long in terms of size. Because long can also have to do with time as well. Now, length feels like... If it were to be a noun, length, it would be a phenomenon, which would make it an environmental noun, I think. It could also be a concept, though, because I've gotten rid of phenomenon as its own noun class. I think I said that most environmental nouns are going to be, like most phenomenon are going to be environmental, but I think that might not be the case for very, very, very abstract things, like the concept of length. I mean, it's not abstract, it does exist in the world, but the idea of measuring it might not be worth having a root for, but I'm not sure. I might want different roots for length in time versus length in size. That might be worth it in this language with how detailed I want to be. So I think I might do that. So what am I feeling for long? I'm thinking about I don't know the Turkish word for long. Words I do know for long are, so in Greek, let me go to my Greek keyboard real quick. I've got makros. For long, I think in Hebrew, oh yeah, my Hebrew keyboard is a chore, I know that. Hebrew, I think I know the Hebrew word for long too. It's, wait, am I still typing? Oh good, yeah I am. Okay, it's yeah, it's aroch. Let me Twitch langify these. This be the os there is just a common ending for second declension adjectives, and then this is that's a sound. It's an allophone of K, but I'm going to learn that as H probably because it's going to get endings onto it. Let's think here. If I were going with my older vocalization, by the way, this would actually be oroch, because it's a long, it's like this one. But also etymologically, this comes from like a long I think that's the other thing I like about learning this is it just feels more distinct. So I don't know. Would be long there, and then in Sanskrit, let me get my Devanagari keyboard open. Long is, ooh, how do I type G? The aspirated G. It's, I can put it in my language here, Dirga. It's an aspirated G. It's There we go. Yeah, dirga. And this is actually, I think this is actually cognate to long. I might be mistaken. But I think it is cognate to the English word long. Like it's related. It's from the same root. And it's Turkish that I don't know where the for long is. Look it up. Oh, you know what? I have seen this word before. I've seen it in this compound here, yeah. Don't remember what that compound means, but I've seen it in like song lyrics or something. It means, yeah, I don't know what that means, but I know that that means length. So the word that I could take for it is uzun, and that wouldn't need to be changed. As per usual, the Turkish word doesn't need to be changed much to get loaned in. Uzun. I don't have a lot of Z, or maybe any Z in my language yet, so maybe I want uzun. I do think aruh sounds nice, but I've taken a lot of verbs thus far from Hebrew, and I don't have that many words from Turkish yet. I have a lot of suffixes from Turkish, but I don't have a lot of words from Turkish. So I might do uzun for long. Let me actually go ahead and add it to my lexicon. So let's go. Uzuno is the verb. Be long. And the root is uzun. And it's from Turkish. Uzun. And in Turkish it means long or tall. Cool. And if we go back to my examples, now I can actually put it in. So it's going to be long. And I said I'm going to go ahead and believe this picture when I say that it's long. And so it's going to be primary evidentiality. So it's going to be uzuno. Now I need a word for loose. I need a word for loose. So I think I need to then go back to my what page is it? Kitchen. I need to go back to kitchen for loose. Come on. Sorry. Google Sheets is starting to lag a bit. Quite a bit. Yeah. And I like to keep these here, like the record of them, just because maybe later I might go back and decide I want to change it, or I might want to loan this one of these others as a word for something slightly related. Like maybe I might decide later that I want uzun for tall, but I actually want to use something else for long. Like maybe later I'm looking for a word for tall, and I don't like the Greek or the Sanskrit or the Hebrew options, and I like how uzun sounds, so I might have uzun be tall, and I might have maybe aroh, which I also liked for long, be long. I could always do that. You know what, now that I say that out loud, I think I might like a different option for tall, actually. You know what, I'm going to write tall here for me to come back and do later. Tall. I know uzun is an option here. I don't, off the top of my head, don't remember what tall would be. Actually, I feel like I do know what tall would be in Greek, but and in Hebrew, actually, it's all flipping back. No, I'm not going to do that right now. I want to focus on what I'm translating. Loose. No, I don't want to paste anything. Come on. Loose. So, Greek is going to give me Greek keyboard. Oh. Recently, my Greek keyboard has been giving me grief with like putting accents on things for some reason. I think it's because I have wing compose and they conflict with each other. But yeah, so it's kalaros. No, that's more Attic. Kalaros. In Koine, that's just gonna be, when I put it into my language, it's gonna be halar. Loose. I really like how that sounds for the phonesthetic of loose here. In Turkish, don't remember off the top of my head. I'm going to have to look that one up. Actually, I'm going to look it up right now. While I'm doing that, I'm going to put what it would be. I actually don't know what it would be in Hebrew either. I'll look that up too. Loose. Looking at some of these options, I do think I am going to end up going with the Greek one, because I'm not sure how much I love these other options here. There is a root shere in Hebrew that means to loosen. I kind of like that. If I have a verb that means to loosen, maybe I could do like shere better than halad. Halad sounds more loose to me, even though that might sound kind of strange. The word for loose in loose or slack or lax in Turkish is gevşek, which wouldn't need to change as per usual. Let's see if I can. Oops. No, stop. Enough. Why didn't delete work when I tried to delete it? And it changed the formatting here. What even is happening here? No. I'm just gonna type it myself. I just was trying to avoid typing on my Hebrew keyboard because it's always annoying. It's should I? There we go. That's gonna get loaned as like this. Should I? So it'll be like shade as a verb. Shade give shekru halaru. I don't think I remember a Sanskrit word for loose either, so I'm gonna have to look that one up as well. Kalla. Is that related to the Greek? It can't be. If it's kal in Greek, then it needs to be a G, an aspirated G, usually in Sanskrit, if they're cognates. Could be a coincidence. Also, it's rare to see an L in. Yeah, no, it seems to be a coincidence. Sometimes compared to kalate, yeah, to loosen. Yeah, okay. It might just be a coincidence that they're similar, or it might be. I don't think Sanskrit would loan it from Greek, but there is this root to loosen. It's that in Sanskrit, it would just be this. I don't have a lot of geminates yet, actually. But it might be tricky to have a geminate here because I'm also going to have a consonant like D or S or M. That's not the best to have geminate in my root. So maybe halad is the way to go. Halad. Yeah, so let's go back to my lexicon. Halaru. verb, it means to be loose, slack. This is the root. If I want to make nouns from it, it's from Greek. And let me type it. Loose. Okay. Now back to my example. It is long and loose. Halaru. And it is cut, so I need cut. So, racking my brain right now to see. There are lots of verbs for cut that come to mind when I'm talking about Greek and Sanskrit. But the thing is, cut might be a little too vague. I might want some different verbs for cut. Because cut in the context of garments, like it is referencing literal cutting with scissors or knives or whatever tool you're using to cut. However, when we're talking about the cut of clothes, it has a lot more to do with like the shaping of it, like the way it is both cut and hemmed and all of that as well. There's like sort of more that goes into it that I might want to express with my language than a generic word for cut that can also mean like to slice or something, like cut meat or something. I might not want that. So for example, like there's a root, like there's a verb krintati in Sanskrit that means to cut, but it also means like to shred or something. It's a little vague. A lot of words for cut in Indo-European languages mean to divide as well. There's also chinati, which is to cut off. It has like Latin as a cognate. There's a verb scindere, which means to cut off. Maybe that's a little bit closer to what I want then, because you're cutting off fabric. And then the Greek word that comes to mind is temne. Temno is I cut, but it also means a lot of other things. Any context where you can cut something, you can use temne for. The root I think is temo, or like temos. So I wonder if I'm going to coin a generic word for cut, and then I'm going to coin a word for like cut to size, maybe. Maybe cut to size should come from this Sanskrit word for to cut off. Well, okay, I haven't looked at any Turkish words yet. Let's think about Turkish words. The Turkish word for to cut is, so as a verb, it's kesmek. K-E-S-M-E-K, and the mek is mek or mak, depending on the harmony, is just the infinitive marking, so the root is kes for cut, which sounds cutty. Sounds, cutting like. Now Hebrew, the root for cut is, it's like a chatach, which also is pretty phonesthetically nice for cutting. Kes is also nice for cutting to kes. But I might like a guess for something else. Now, if I were to loan it from Hebrew, if I were to be consistent with what I've been doing, I would be taking it from the present participle, which would be like ho. be like hoteh. So it'll be like hoteh, H-O-T-E-H, hoteh. I should be writing these down, shouldn't I? I'm just like looking at these in the dictionary. My dictionary sources here. So this be like hoteh. Kes doesn't need to change. This root is tem. Well, the root is actually tem. The n is coming in the specific conjugation, so it's like tem. I could keep it just for the specificity, and then if I were to, do I want to try to type the Sanskrit? One for to cut off, a cut that like has the implications of cutting off. The thing is, in Chinati, it's an example of a root where in Sanskrit, it's actually the root is actually it's with a D. It's like Chinad is the root. The T is added to it. But the Na in Chinad is actually an infix. It's an infix that marks if you take a, I think it's like a intransitive that is perfective in terms of its root, and you want to make it transitive and imperfective, you add a ne infix or a no suffix, depending on the shape of the root. And so the root is actually like, I think it's like ch. What is the root? The root is chid, I think, chid. It shows up as like chid. So the root is chid to like cut off, amputate. But I think they use it in math for division, in Sanskrit math. So if that's the root I want to take from, chid, and then this would be tem. I could also do like chinad if I wanted to. Oh, no, it wouldn't be like with this C. That's what you do in Sanskrit. It would be this C. Because the root is actually, it's actually aspirated chid. It would be chid or chinad. If I wanted to take from chinad. Kes, for cut. So what I might do is I might do chid. Which one sounds? Because I am going to go off sound, I think. I might do one for cutting things to size, like clothing, and one for just general chopping things. Arguably, either could be either. Chopping off actually kind of sounds more like chopping things, so I might do chid. Chidu. Yeah. Actually, I might not have it be slice. Like amputate. Sanskrit. Cut off. Shred. Slice. Hew. And then I think I want a hotehu for kesu, for cut to size. Hotel. Kes. I think kes sounds more like you're like cutting clothing, phonesthetically. So yeah, cut to size. Cut to size. Yeah, I'll just say cut to size for now. Kes. Turkish. Kes. Cut. Okay, kes. Alright. So back to my example. here. This would be kesu. Double S, because it's oh wait, no, kesi. There we go, kesi. Kesi. Kes is my root, and then si marks the secondary evidentiality. And it is ongoingly cut, isn't it? So it'd be kesi. Like in general, it is cut in this way. So next word I can't do one today because I don't want to get into numbers yet. But I can do peace. Let's think of peace. So when I say piece, I mean a part of a bigger thing. Like it's a piece of cloth, right? It's one piece. It's cut to size with one piece with the sleeve. Trying to remember words for peace. I know the Sanskrit word for peace because it has a weird etymology. Let's see if I can find it. It's, there we go. So this is ka. If I write it in Sanskrit, it's like, no, it's da, kanda, kanda. And they're retroflexed not because of an R, but because it's from Dravidian. So this would just be, in my language, it would just be kanda, I think, for peace. I don't know how I feel about that. So peace is going to have to be, in this context at least, it's going to be crafted, but peace could be, different. It could be different noun classes. Now for peace in Hebrew, that's going to be, it's going to be like halak. Let me see if I can write that here. There we go. One's like more like that, but it's gonna be this halak, kind of like the phonesthetic of that. And then it's barca, I think, in Turkish. I just looked this one up, but I think barca might come from Persian. I think it sounds like it's a Persian loan. Just the aesthetic of it is giving me the vibe that it is a Persian loan. Because it's not like the sort of cluster I would expect from a native Turkish word. There might be a native word, like a Turkic word. I mean, it is a native Turkish word, but it would have been loaned from Persian a long time ago. Let me check. Yeah, okay, yeah, it comes from Persian. My instincts were correct in this case. I was actually going to be surprised if it was not. Doesn't sound like an Arabic loan to me. That's also a Persian loan. Interesting. Is there not like a native Turkic word for peace? And as I thought, that one comes from Arabic. Okay. I know that one is Persian. Bade. Tufek. Where does Tufek come from? I'm kind of getting more far afield in terms of semantics at this point. Tufek comes from... Oh yeah, no, that means rifle. No, that's not what I want. Okay, yeah. I think I might just not get the word from Turkish. Or I could just accept the Persian. I'd like to loan directly from Persian, though, if I'm going to take a Persian word. You know? I don't see a reason to take from Persian here. Oh yeah, Greek. Yeah, so in Greek, I think the one that would make the most sense here is, whoa, it's doing the thing with accents again. Yeah, medos. So this should be med as the root for peace here. In Greek, I kind of think I like either the Greek one or the Hebrew one best. Helek sounds like a piece. Helek. In this context, it would be like heleke or mere. So, sounds better. Mere. Mero. Heleke. Heleko. I like helek. And it is from Hebrew, and it is this in Hebrew. It means piece or part. Okay. And so in this case, heleke is what it would be. I don't think I have a good definition in English for what heleke means, but it's clear in context what it means here. It means a piece of a crafted thing. Helek. So there'd be like some kind of number one attached to heleke. And then I just need a word for sleeve. And I think this is a good place to stop. If I can get through the next one, I don't think there's too many. Oh wait, no, there are some words I have to coin in the next one as well. Okay, this gets a little tricky. Let's see here. So the last word I need is sleeve. So let's go back to my kitchen. Here. I'm just calling this kitchen because it's where I'm cooking up words. I should probably highlight which ones I took here. I took both for different meanings, and then I took helek here, but I might use med for something later. Now sleeve. I don't know the word for sleeve in any of these languages off the top of my head. dictionaries and take a look here. So, okay. Oh, I am not loaning from Sanskrit. Those are very long words for slave. Dorachadana and Bahuvastra. I know the root of, I know Bahuvastra. That's interesting. Bahu means like, okay, Vastra. That's the root of my verb vasu, to wear. Okay. And then Turkish. Two very short words for sleeve in Turkish. That might be good. I know I'm not taking a Sanskrit word. Now this word for sleeve also means arm. I might want to save it for when I get to arm. I might want it for arm, actually. Yen. Okay, there's yen, sleeve, but there's also a verb yen neck, which means to defeat. Do I want to save yen for defeat? Maybe. I don't know if there's an ancient Greek word for sleeve. I don't know if ancient Greek garments had sleeves. And I want to know the etymology of this Hebrew word for sleeve, which is sharvul. Doesn't look like a tricontinental root, but it could be. Etymology. Because this could be a modern Hebrew word that there's no root. There's no biblical Hebrew word for. Because I don't know if there's a biblical Hebrew word for slave either. Maybe. There must have been an ancient Greek word for sleeve. That's what I thought. Okay, I think there is one. I can't find an etymology for this Hebrew word. It does have a construct state, but not a weird construct state. That's what I would have expected. There's a modern Greek word for sleeve, but I think it's a loan from Italian or something, because it reminds me of the Italian word for sleeve. Oh, sorry, my computer did a weird thing. This is tricky. I think my best bet is just to go with the word that I found in Turkish that means sleeve, but also is a verb for to overcome, just by happenstance. I think I'm going to be okay with saying goodbye to that word for overcome. Plenty of sources in Greek that I can think of for it. So, yene would be noun, concept noun, sleeve. If I ever need a verb for it, the root is yen, and it's from Turkish. Yen, sleeve. There we go. Example. Okay, so I have basically this entire sentence save the word for one. So if I want to compare again the sentence here, it's a long loose gown. So it's the loose. So if I want to be more literal, it's the gown, which is loose. Wait, it's long and loose. And I've got like the present reference again, the like time reference. Cut, secondary source, one piece, and it's instrumental, or not instrumental, vialis, so it's like by way of one piece. I'll just actually mark vialis here. Vialis, and then with the sleeves, so sleeves, and then commutative with. Okay, so that's how that looks. And it's sleeves collective, just with whatever sleeves are there. It's not a particular sleeve. It's just the sleeves on whatever deal you're talking about. So, I think that's nice and compact. I think that comes out nice. It's clear where the verb starts because we have this E here marking it, and that makes it clear that these are adjectives. And these adjectives have direct evidentiality. I can see that they're long and loose from the picture, but the fact that they're cut this way, I cannot tell from the picture just looking at it myself. So, maybe if I looked closer, I might be able to see, but I'm also not an expert on fashion, so I'm going to take their word for it, and I'm marking on the verb that I'm taking their word for it there, rather than something I could tell with my own eyes there. So, that's 2 of these sentences so far. We've got this much of the information. Oh, I forgot I can't just highlight some text with on Google Sheets. That's right. I might bold in it, or maybe I'll like cross it out. There we go. Cool. Cross out what I've done so far. So, next time we're going to say it has a high collar and widely overlaps the front. Yeah, so I need to end the stream a little bit early today compared to what the time says. It's supposed to go until 8 because my dog desperately needs to go outside. Is what I'm gathering from my dog's groans. So I'm going to end the stream a little bit early. We will come back to this stuff next week. So next Friday is the next Conlang with me, because we're starting to do alternate weeks between Conlang with me and Yesterlore. So what I will do between now and then, other than, just continue working on the other stuff I'm preparing for next time. Next time I want to start with finishing this up, and then I want to go into the next topic. I'll give a little preview of what that's going to be. But what I'll do first, though, is I'm going to have any other words like that I will need to coin for this sort of demonstration example. I will make sure that I have words for them. Like, I will choose the words. The process you saw me doing where I was going to Kitchen and like looking at what the words are in different languages, I will do that on my own, because as you can see, it's kind of a time, it is a time-intensive process if I do it the sort of systematic way I want to show you that I do it, where I go to Kitchen. Oftentimes, I will kind of quickly look at them myself, keep them in my head, and just choose one very quickly. So I don't always do the Kitchen route. I just do that when I know I want to preserve. Whoa, it's lagging so much, it's still scrolling down way more than I wanted. I mostly, when I'm doing it on my own, not for the stream, I mostly do Kitchen when I know there's multiple words that I want to save for later. Like, ooh, I know I want to do the Sanskrit word for this thing now, but I like the Turkish word, and so I want to save it for later, or, something like that. So that's when I actually end up using Kitchen on my own, when I want to save stuff. Otherwise, I just kind of quickly look at what my options are, remember what my options are from studying, and pick something quickly. So it usually doesn't take that long for all of these. The reason I took my time with this is because I wanted to give them all kind of a chance. But I will look ahead to how, like, what words I want and need from the rest of this passage here, so that next time we can start by really quickly going through what the rest of this will look like grammatically, to again make sure that the grammar checks out and makes sense here. Because I'm trying to put my grammar into use. And then next time we're going to get into the next topic, which once we've kind of, this is just a test. I'm doing other tests too, but I wanted to do one that I show this stream. We're going to get into root topics. Now, what does that mean? Basically, once I'm sort of happy with how my grammar works, which is what I'm trying to test with sort of some of these examples, I want to get into the actual sort of meat, really, of what this conlang is for. So remember, back to the goals, that this conlang is for me to use when taking notes on humanities and social sciences topics. So when I'm coming up with roots for things that I want in the language, I'm kind of just randomly using the translation method right now, where you translate something, or you pick a topic and say, like, oh, what will I need words for in order to convey this idea? And that's fine just for my little examples, because I'm really just testing the grammar out right now. But when I get into it, when I get into actually using this language, I want to have a lot of it done, right? I want to have words for things already that I can study and learn, memorize, and then use. So what I want to do is I want to think about different humanities and social sciences topics that I know I want to write about, or use this language for, things that I'm interested in. And so what I want to do is look at different topics that I want to think about, like the different frameworks for different ideas, and how I want them to be conveyed sort of grammatically and lexically in this language. What do I want words for? What kinds of distinctions? You could kind of see today some vague ideas I have about sort of specificity of things. Like I talked about how I want sort of a word, I wanted those different words for cut in different contexts, right? Cutting in general versus cutting a garment specifically, because that's kind of a different thing. You're cutting something to size rather than just dividing something with a knife. It's a little bit more specific. There's that kind of stuff I know I want to differentiate. But I actually want to get into some of the topics. So I'm going to prepare some topics. I'll have one or two that I know I want to talk about. Different frameworks for things, maybe history, maybe we'll start with linguistics, maybe we'll start with anthropology, not sure yet. And what we'll do is we'll think about sort of what frameworks do I want to work with or be able to have the flexibility to work with, and then what words do I need to coin for them, or what grammatical things do I need to have accounted for if I want that to be how it works. So that's what we're going to get into next time, root topics. So that will be next Friday, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Pacific. Oh, that's my dog again telling me he needs to go outside. So, thank you. I guess I'll separate examples into part 1 and part 2. Part 1. I guess we'll call it grammar test. Part 1. Grammar test, part 2. And this will be 13 next time. Yeah, okay. So that will be... Oh, what happened here? Oh. It's missing an X here. This will be... Make sure I have the date right for next Friday. Yeah, so that's going to be the 4th of March 2022. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So, I will see you then. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your whatever time it is for you. And I want to say thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.